Thank you, Mr. Dyer, and welcome to everybody. Welcome to our class. This is a program that we started last semester in our graduate program at Coastal and Marine Science, and you'll be meeting several of our students today, and it has is something that evolved, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to work with my good friend Dr. Pam Martin as we've collaborated on curriculum. This is really a continuation of the conversation on natural gas, and we'll talk for a few minutes on why we are here today, but this follows up on an experiential learning opportunity that Dr. Martin created in Raleigh, where the students were introduced to natural gas, meeting with the Southeastern Environmental Law Center and activists in North Carolina, and I enjoyed hearing that perspective, and today really continues and fleshes out that continuum of information. So we're looking forward to hearing from 17 experts today from across the country, 6 states, and the thought leaders, and for each of you that have traveled across the country to be here with us, welcome to Coastal Carolina University, one of the most exciting campuses I've been on, and I'm very proud to be a part of this university, sir, the small role that I'm able to play. And I'm glad that they were able to put down the brand new football field just for your arrival. And that's not Boise State, that's Coastal Carolina. That's not blue, that's teal. So we'll start briefly by saying that the purpose of this program here at Coastal Carolina is to bridge what we all believe is a tremendous gap between good science and good policy. And really and truly, this is a class. This is our last class. Dr. Gaze will be turning in our final papers. And this examination, you have seated around this table our graduate students. And the idea is to have a very open conversation. I'm standing, I hope you won't, because our first symposium that Senator Alexander chaired for us was a conversation. And we didn't want to put barriers between our experts and our speakers. We wanted to have a very balanced conversation. And it was fun to see how we could bring differing perspectives together with that offshore wind conversation. I took out of that one tremendous result of that was we had the White House down sitting next to one of our most conservative statewide elected officials, our adjutant, not our adjutant general, our comptroller general, and they had a great conversation and found common ground. And so we hope that today we'll find common ground between the differing perspectives. So that's really it, bridging the gap between good science and good policy. And this continues a conversation that we've had already. This is Pam and myself and some of our students. We were welcomed into the White House last semester to talk about this. I was back up on Wednesday meeting with some of these same folks on natural gas this past Wednesday. And when you walk in and the senior presidential staff ask how things going at Coastal Carolina, I feel like we've made headway. And asking about our students by name. Now, Brian, the shark man who you've met, he and I make for a good Mutt and Jeff. You know, he wants to get me one white dreadlock. People remember somebody who wrangles sharks for a living. And we've continued this conversation. Just last month, we heard from General Mike Warmack. General Smith, the deputy for the Special Forces Command, came down and spoke with us about national security, energy security, and climate, and how those issues bear. And I know that we'll hear more about that today. And we'll just run you through. We've heard, as part of this program, we've had Justice Lockamy speak. We've had folks come down from the Hill, chiefs of staff, senior legislators, some of which you'll hear from today. And so that brings us why natural gas. This course is on climate change policy. And I promised my students I wouldn't ask them in front of the whole group, what are those 6 greenhouse gases that we're examining? But that's where we started, is what are the gases? And you'd be surprised how many people, audiences that we pull together that are very concerned about reducing greenhouse gases that can't name those gases. And it's really not a trick question. But we've started with understanding what those gases are, and then once you move out of that, it's where are they coming from, so that we can work together to determine how best to have policy with good science. And when you peel that back, you look at energy is the #1 sector. And when you look at that, you find tremendous opportunity with natural gas. And that's really why with the United States has seen the reductions, and we'll hear about that. I don't want to steal the thunder, but I wanted to just give some perspective, academic perspective, for what brings us here today. Last semester, wind. Next semester, photovoltaic. We're looking, and we begin to peel this back, and we look at what are the opportunities and challenges that are presented with each of these various forms of energy. How do we have good policy in the United States that's balanced and science-based? So each of our students that you'll meet today have taken different pieces of this and have done a wonderful job developing that. Patrick, who comes to us from Texas, has taken the national security piece and begun developing that. I mentioned Brian, Andrea that you look at. Each of these students have examined different pieces and will be asking each of you speakers here for a couple minutes just to further develop these ideas. So this is why we assembled. We started with the wind symposium I mentioned, and I've talked. I cannot say enough. You talk about a human dynamo. When you hear from Pam Martin, I could live off of her energy. I didn't realize how old and tired I was until I get on the phone with her and hear, wow. I mean, I used to say if this got any worse, I'd pull my hair out. And so here I am. Thank God for Pam, because she's really infused a lot of what we're doing with this energy. Since this is the last time you'll hear from me, I want to take a moment and thank Dr. Gaze and Dr. Vizzo for allowing me to be a part of this, which I think is a very exciting time for the university and for the state of South Carolina to establish a vanguard position on addressing this gap. Today, you will each speak from your seat. We have a bell. We've got a lot of speakers, and we're going to try to keep things on track. So 3 minutes before the end, you'll hear a bell. 3 minutes after the allotted time, you'll see a hook. No, I'm teasing. We'll work with you, but we are going to try to keep us on track. And the funny thing is, with this many senior thought leaders, I thought when we put this faculty together, surely we'll lose 3 or 4 before the day of. And God bless each of you here. So there's not a lot of gaps, Swain. And let me also say, this program would not have been possible without Swain Whitfield. I won't have a chance to brag on him. Longtime friend, our public service commissioner, really helped build out a very robust offering. And so that offering today will cover, the experts that you'll hear from will be from research and development all the way through in use. So you will hear from experts that represent the entire continuum of this sector. You know, it almost gets to the point when you lean on your friends to give their time. And when as I look at Senator Shaheen and Senator Alexander, and I say that time is my predator, I don't really know what a predator is, like these men who showed up here today. Senator Shaheen emailing me from our hometown of Camden very early this morning, all week in the legislature, go back, practice law, try to make a living in the middle of everything else. And Senator Alexander, Walhalla is not near Conway. The truth is, I can fly to LA, Los Angeles, quicker than he can drive to Conway, because I live that close to the airport. We're about 5.5 hours from Walhalla, South Carolina. Senator Alexander, this is the second time that he's agreed to be a chair for this event, for our series, and his career is long and storied. He started off on the Walhalla City Council, was in the South Carolina House for many years, where he was chairman of Labor, Commerce, and Industry Committee. He then moved over to the Senate and is now chairman of the Senate Labor, Commerce, and Industry Committee. And I think it's worth pointing that out, because not in the history of South Carolina before Senator Alexander did somebody enjoy the chairmanships of both of those houses in succession, both of those committees. He also chairs the Public Utility Review Committee, a joint committee, and is intimately involved in energy in South Carolina. He is an energy expert. We'll hear from Senator Alexander first, and then we'll hear from our friend Senator Shaheen, who is considered by many among the best and brightest, not just in our Senate, but across South Carolina. Thoughtful. I've got to say that his father, who was my first employer, was responsible for helping give birth to Coastal Carolina University when he headed our Higher Education Commission. And I had the pleasure and honor growing up across the street from Vincent. And so I've known, he and I have been friends for many years. He's taken leadership positions not only within the state legislature, but within the legal community, and is without a doubt the most accomplished trial lawyer in South Carolina. I've worked with Vincent on a number of cases, and always amazed. You know, it's hard growing up because, you know, I still think of Vincent as across the street, and I see all this stuff on TV, and, you know, I can't get over everything you've been able to do. So thank you both for being here. At the conclusion of their remarks, we will give brief introductions, but to keep us on track, you should have in front of you bios, and we won't spend a lot of time. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Senator Alexander, and again, welcome to everybody. I hope you have a wonderful time today. Enjoy your time on campus, and we'll look forward to an exciting day together.